So my number three film is American Graffiti, film from 1973, written
Mm-hmm.
and directed by George Lucas, starring Ron Howard, Richard Dreyfuss, Cindy Williams, and also a cameo from Suzanne Summers and one of Harrison Ford's first screen roles. So the IMDb plot summary of this film is a group of teenagers in California's Central Valley spend one final night together after their 1962 high school graduation, cruising the strip with their buddies before they pursue their varying goals. So this film, I think, captures a lot of the indecision and the thought process that goes into, do you leave home or not? Which is something that, I definitely, as someone who, yes, I was going to leave home to go off to school and college, but I didn't have to go to California. There's a lot of back and forth that I went through. And I think what this film does is really through the two main characters, Ron Howard's character and Richard Dreyfuss' character, who both kind of go back and forth. Do they want to leave their small town or not? I think captures a lot of those mixed emotions about leaving home for me. And I think this also really is about like that post high school feeling of, okay, am I doing this? What's it going to be like? And that thought process of what it is going to be like leaving home. And you start to imagine those things. And then sometimes, you question it. So like the plot summary said, the movie's about the night after graduation, the night before these two characters are going to leave. And Richard Dreyfuss' character has a scholarship. He's sort of on a good track to go off to this good school. Ron Howard just kind of wants to get the hell out of town. He's sort of, I have nothing, this small town, there's nothing here for me. But Dreyfuss is thinking, maybe I don't want to go. Maybe I want to stay. And this whole night, the film takes place over one night. These two characters go through a kind of a roller coaster of do I or don't I? Richard Dreyfuss, again, is very unsure. It's kind of easy to stay. Like, I think he's afraid to go off and do something different. He's used to this town. He's used to all the people in it. He doesn't want to start his adulthood, which is going off and making big decisions. This is sort of the first big decision you make is, do I, leave my town or not? Ron Howard, again, is someone who wants to get the hell out. Oh, he says some line about like, oh, whatever I want in life, it's not in this town. And he's trying to kind of break up with his girlfriend too, to be like, oh, let's kind of, be open relationship where I'm off at college, because I think his girlfriend is a year or two younger than him, so she's not yet leaving. And it's just, they go on this little nostalgia trip of go back to the old high school, walk the halls, go to a high school dance. You're sort of really feeling like you're already gone when going back and having these feelings, which is something I feel too, senior year of high school. You're kind of walking around the school being like, yeah, I'm already outgrown this. But do I actually want to go off and leave this city and this place? That indecision. I think what the film does really well is there's with Richard Dreyfuss' character, who again is very reluctant to go. He sees this girl, like I said earlier, Suzanne Summers, in this like white T-Bird, because this is the 60s. So they do this thing where they just kind of like drive around essentially like aimlessly in the neighborhood on these main streets. And it's just what they did back then, I guess. I did not grow up at that time, but he sees her in this T-Bird and like he's immediately like enamored. Who is this girl? I've never seen her before. This is what I want. And he can't quite find her, can't quite catch up to her in this town, which is kind of signifying to me of like, whatever he wants is not, he will not find it where he is. And I think that's one of the lessons that he learns. Even he doesn't really know what it is that he wants. And then he sees this girl, he's like, that's what I want, but he can't get her in this town. And then there's this amazing shot at the end of the film, because he does actually decide at the end of the night to leave, where he's on the plane and he's flying away, and he looks down and he sees that T-Bird, and that T-Bird, which represents sort of his, what he wants out of his life, is going in the same direction as him. Driving out of the town. And I think that really signifies to me that, okay, yeah, he did make the right decision. He should have left of this town. And then, the flip side of it, Ron Howard just ends up staying and realizing he does love, his girlfriend enough where he doesn't want to go. And, maybe that bravado and bluster of, this town's too small, I want to leave it, was sort of hiding this feeling of his, of like, he can't actually let go of these things that he maybe thought he could. Which again are two emotions that I for sure felt when deciding to go off to California, a place I'd visited one time. I knew zero people in who were going to the same college as me. Actually, no one from my school went to California at all for college. And there's a lot of great schools in Boston. I got into several of them. My parents definitely would have preferred that I stayed in the hometown. It just would have been a different experience. I would have gotten that moving out of my house, but not leaving my entire world behind, which is something that Dreyfuss decides to do in this film. And so I think Lucas does a fantastic job of really dealing with these kind of two sides sides of leaving home. And the movie's just, I think, fantastic. Really, great characters, really well shot. I mean, the way he shoots these cars, I mean, you feel like you're there, transported back to 1962 on the streets with these kids. The music's fantastic. It sometimes acts as kind of a Greek chorus. There's radio playing of different songs from that time that are kind of commenting at best on what's going on with the characters. It's just all around a fantastic film, but to me, I think really represents that indecision, which is something at least I felt of should I really be doing this? But then you know what? I know, kind of like Dreyfus, that I can't get what I want in my town. So yeah, a movie I still think really holds up, especially the performances from the cast all around is just fantastic. That's my number 3.
All right. I think you said it all really. The indecision stuff is like spot on, and I didn't feel so much of that in my life when I was leaving for undergrad, but I think leaving India to come to the US for business school was a big one,
Right.
like, the opportunity ahead of you. You sort of even imagine that life a little bit, but at the same time, it's such a big leap of what your life is going to be. And are you going to make it? Is it going to be worth it? How are you going to start up all over again? What happens if it doesn't work out? Can you even come back? How do you come back? A million questions, right? So I think that part really resonated. In a way, I feel like the stakes of that in my own life are even stronger.
Sure.
In some ways, right? But I thought the movie does a great job in capturing that. As the movie as a whole, I feel like I need to give this movie another watch, because I hadn't seen this movie before. I'd seen scenes here and there. I don't know. To me, there's something about the way the movie is shot. Felt like, this is a modern movie made now about a time in the past. And I don't know, I found that very distracting. I mean, the 50s and 60s, like, it's one of my favorite periods of film in a way. Like, I love when modern movies go back. Like, we've talked about Todd Haynes films, who's such a master craftsman. So I'm sort of used to that level of detail and that level of sort of transportism, if that's a word. I didn't feel that in this movie. It felt like a modern movie shot, about the time in the past. And maybe there's something about the camera angles or the lack of graininess of the film, or because there's so much about just driving around. So you also always have like lights blaring, right? The lights from the diner, the lights from the car, that maybe that's what does it. But there's something about, and that's why I need to watch this movie again to either change my opinion or maybe understand where that feeling came from. So I don't know. I found it hard to kind of get into it. And I was like, just make this movie now, why are we in the 60s? So I don't know.
That's interesting. I mean, I think something that this movie, I feel, invented nostalgia as a concept and definitely as a genre in film. Like, no one had done this before, which is, let's tell a story, but through a nostalgic lens. Like, he was, because that's where Lucas grew up, in a small town in Northern California that he was huge into cars. This was a world that he was trying to capture. And normally what had been done in, films before this time, or at least not in this, with such a commercial hit like this, is they would try to do like what Tom Haynes was trying to do, is like capture a time, but not like a feeling of what it was like to live in that time. He was trying to recreate, and a lot of movies do this too. They try to recreate the era where you feel like you're transported back. I think what Lucas was doing, and I think he does it successfully too, is capture what is a feeling of a nostalgia for a time that you no longer live in. And it's odd. Like, I watched this movie and I feel nostalgic for 1962 Northern California, even though I didn't even grow up there. Like, these feelings that I start having the nostalgia from my own past, because he's able to capture his feelings of nostalgia. So it's not meant to, I think, be authentic to the time, but it's authentic to a feeling about the time of like, oh, remember when we were in high school, remember when I was going through these experiences. And I think that's why too, the film works, when I didn't grow up at this time, but I watch it and I'm transported back to my time in high school, because it captures that feeling, which is something that, I think this movie again kind of invented that genre, which then kind of exploded throughout, the 70s with, Happy Days and Grease, looking nostalgically back into the 50s. They weren't trying to capture any kind of reality. but they were trying to capture a feeling of something. So I think I interpret your comments to that. It's like you're maybe seeing that the nostalgic distance he's putting through it, and not the fact that it's not meant to be an authentic, down to the, the details representation of what it was like to actually be in that time, but it's captures the feeling of kind of what it was like,
Right.
which is
That's
why to me the
interesting.
movie
And
works because of that.
that's clarifying, actually, and that does make sense. And yeah, which is why I think I need to watch it again. To me, I need a little bit more of that detail to feel the nostalgia for real. That's just maybe just how my brain works. Like, when I'm transported, then I can suspend where we are at and get transported back to my own place. Is just how my brain works. So, but I don't know, maybe on a second viewing, I'll have a different experience. That said, it was still really fun to watch this movie. And it was always on my long list of films to watch because I love movies about nostalgia and sort of looking back. But somehow I don't know why I'd avoided this movie for so long.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.